Hey, I wanted to talk to y'all for a few minutes about surviving an unexpected fire event. I don't know how many of y'all have seen about the incident with Ladder 46 in Houston back on January 7th, where three firefighters on the truck crew doing a search were caught. Their situation sounds like it truly was a flashover, but there's lots of ways that you can suddenly and unexpectedly be caught in a catastrophic fire event where you're covered up fire floor to ceiling. So what I wanted to clarify was what we teach today as to how to protect your mask versus what we taught back after Cody Schroeder in Beaumont, Texas was caught in a flashover back in 2007. At the time, we heard that he had been caught in a flashover and survived for over 2.5 minutes. And that he survived by covering his mask up, because at the time I taught that you only had about 10 seconds of direct flame contact on your mask before it fails, and mostly that's still true today. There's a few variables, but you don't have very long direct flame contact. But when we heard about Cody Schroeder and that he covered his mask, I didn't have any other options to come up with, and we taught to cover your mask with your hands or your hand. 2 weeks after we drilled at Station 46, where I worked at the time as a senior captain on the ladder truck, 2 weeks after we drilled at the table on how to survive, my own captain, Todd Padgett, was caught in a flashover back 2009, and he survived by covering his mask. Now, the problem was he covered his mask with both hands, and he was severely burnt, had to have both hands grafted, but he did survive. So as far as we looked at it, it was still a positive outcome. Probably about a year or two later, I was at Station 34 in Houston teaching how to cover your mask, telling the Cody, I didn't know Cody's name at the time, I didn't know the whole story, and a firefighter there told me that his family was friends with the firefighter in Beaumont. And so he got me a contact number, and I called, found out about to talk to Cody and ask him to tell his story. Well, anyway, whenever he couldn't get out, and he realized he couldn't get out, he laid on the floor, pushed his mask hard into the floor, and said he still had flames coming around the left side. But he clenched his hands, and this is critical. He clenched his hands to protect his fingers, and he covered his mask with his arms while he's laying on the floor. Now, as soon as I heard that, I knew that was a much better idea than covering with your hands, because your fingers are exposed. And so we started teaching right away to clench, and you can actually cover your mask in the crook of your arm if you still need to use one hand, or you can cover with both. But that's critical, that you clench to protect your fingers, and you have to protect your mask. Now, let me tell you, there's three things if you're caught in a sudden catastrophic fire event where suddenly you're covered up fire floor to ceiling. There's three ways that you're going to survive. One of them is if you have a hose line with the right nozzle pumping the right pressure, flowing the right gallons per minute, you can fight your way out of it. The other is you have to get out. And that is by far the number one way most firefighters have survived a sudden catastrophic fire event, is they escape. The third is that you can't get out, but today we know that by covering your mask, you can lay there, unfortunately be burned, but you can survive. You have to protect that mask. Once that mask fails, that's it, you're done. You can't breathe in those superheated gases. And so it's critical that if you think this is a good idea, please pass it on to any firefighters you know. In Houston alone, because of Cody Schroeder's incident in Beaumont in 2007, today in Houston alone, we have 4 firefighters that have survived by covering their mask up. So let me give you just a real quick clarification here. Flashover is technical. Unfortunately, it's kind of a catch-all. We label almost every sudden catastrophic fire event as a flashover. flashovers we can predict, and flashovers we can prevent. We can cool the environment, we can ventilate more effectively, but sudden catastrophic fire events we cannot predict and we cannot prevent. And that's something such as a sudden sealant failure, wind change, some type of accelerant lighting off. There's a lot of different ways that you can suddenly find yourself in a fight for life. Today we have a third option, which is protect your mask. So we didn't have that until 2007 with Cody Schroeder in Beaumont. So please, let me just close here. In a flashover, you kind of get a little bit of a heads up, not very long, we're talking seconds. But here's kind of what to expect. Suddenly, and this is the way it always happens, no Hollywood music leading up to it. Suddenly, the heat increases. Then, out of nowhere comes this super black, pressurized, super hot smoke, comes to the floor, and in only seconds, it's going to light off. Now, I hope every fireman knows in all of these situations, you have to go to the floor. That's where you're going to survive. And so, you go to the floor, it lights off. Smoke being fuel today burns like gasoline. So it's explosive. The fireball goes to the floor. You're covered up in fire. You got to expect that. But in seconds, in most cases, the fire, as the fuel is consumed, will come up off the floor about maybe 10 inches. And that's when you can see under the fire and scan real quick, see if you can find where your exit is. And then you make a move for your exit. In a few cases, if there's too many combustibles on the floor, like in Captain Paget's incident, the fire doesn't come up. And so you have no option but to try to escape. You can't lay there in a solid ball of fire. So anyway, those are things to expect. If you have any questions, if any of my posts confuse you, please reach out. You can reach me on Messenger, or you can just, please add it to comments. There's lots of people that have questions, and I would hope that that if you put in comments and I answer, it answers more questions for those that may have those. So anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.